Well, here we are, and we are coming to the end of our look at Song of Songs as we've been going through this special edition of the Favourites podcast. We're at chapter 7 and 8, and in fact, I'm going to read the section for us. It's from Song of Songs. We're going to read from verse 13 of chapter 6, in fact. So we'll start from there because that's where the section really begins through to the end of chapter 8. Come back, Shulamite, come back, that we may look at you. That's the young women. And then the man, the beloved, the lover says, how you gaze at the Shulamite as you look at the dance of the two camps. How beautiful are your sandaled feet, princess. The curves of your thighs are like jewellery. The handiwork of a master, your navel is a rounded bowl. It never lacks mixed wine. Your belly's a mound of wheat, surrounded by lilies. Your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. Your neck is like a tower of ivory. Your eyes like pools in Heshbon, by Bath Rabbim's gate. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon, looking toward Damascus. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel, the hair of your head like purple cloth. The king could be held captive in your tresses. How beautiful you are, and how pleasant, my love, with such delights. Your stature is like a palm tree, your breasts are clusters of fruit. I said I will climb the palm tree and take hold of its fruit. And may your breasts be like clusters of grapes, and the fragrance of your breath like apricots. Your mouth is like fine wine. Fine wine flowing smoothly for my love, gilding past my lips and teeth. Woman, the beloved speaks, I am my love's, and his desire is for me. Come, my love, let's go to the field. Let's spend the night among the henna blossoms. Let's go early to the vineyards. Let's see if the vine has budded, if the blossom has opened, if the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my caresses. The mandrakes give off a fragrance, and at our doors is every delicacy, both new and old. I have treasures. I have treasured them up for you, my love. If only I could treat you like my brother, one who nursed at my mother's breast. I would find you in public and kiss you, and no one would scorn me. I would lead you, I would take you to the house of my mother, who taught me. I would give you spiced wine to drink from the juice of my pomegranate. And may his left hand be under my head, and his right arm embrace me. Young women of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not stir up or awaken love until the appropriate time. Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning on the one she loves? I awakened you under the apricot tree. There your mother conceived you. There she conceived and gave you birth. Set me as a seal on your heart, as a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death. Jealousy is as unrelenting as Sheol. Love's flames are fiery flames, an almighty flame. A huge torrent cannot extinguish love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If a man were to give all his wealth for love, it would be utterly scorned. Brothers now speak. Our sister is young. She has no breasts. What will we do for our sister on the day she is spoken for? If she is a wall, we will build a silver barricade on her. If she is a door, we will enclose her with cedar planks. Woman, I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. So in his eyes I have become like one who finds peace. Solomon owned a vineyard in Baal Hamon. He leased the vineyard to tenants. Each was to bring for his fruit 1,000 pieces of silver. I have my own vineyard. The 1,000 are for you, Solomon, but 200 for those who take care of its fruits. You who dwell in the gardens, companions are listening for your voice. Says Solomon, says the man, let me hear you. And the woman, the bride for beloved, answers, run away with me, my love, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountain of spices. So we come to the end of this love poem, and I think there's some very helpful things here at the end that help bring to light what is happening here. First of all, it finally gives us the actual historical context. Now, there in verse 11 of chapter 8, we're told that Solomon owns a vineyard, but also that his beloved owns a vineyard as well. Vineyards that are leased out, that are tended to. And it seems to be that it is in the context of Solomon owning, acquiring, taking charge of his vineyard, that this is where these lovers have met. The song is a story really of courtship, of being wooed, and so there is longing and desire. So if there's been that punctuation throughout, that call, do not awaken love until the appropriate time, it is because there is a time for love. There is a time for sexual intimacy, and that is within the context of marriage at the right and proper time. But there is a stage when the young woman is still not ready to marry. Our sister is young. She has no breast. She's still not mature and ready to marry. Say the brothers in chapter 8 and verse 8. And so it is their responsibility, it's the family's responsibility to protect and to care for her, to build a wall around her, to care for her, to protect her physical safety, but also to protect her honour. If brothers are speaking, that might suggest, particularly with this young lady taking charge of family property as well, that may suggest that they are orphaned, that the father, maybe even the mother, are not around. But this uncertain period, as she is being wooed, but she is not yet wed, that means that she can't go and have an open relationship. She would like to have the friendship, the intimacy, just the normal out and about intimacy that she, where she knows him and is known to be in relationship with him, that she can have with her brothers, a different type of intimacy, but that level of this is a publicly acceptable public companionship. That time is not yet. The time will come and they will go to the place of consummation. We've seen that place is in the safety of the king's garden, place where she is protected and safe. But we are reaching that point. And so in verse 10 she says, I am a wall and my breasts are like towers. She responds to these brothers who even seem to be looking and maybe sort of infantilizing her, saying she's not ready yet, she's still a girl. And she says, no, actually, I am a woman. And therefore, I am ready. And the relationship I'm going into is safe. And so, going back to the end of chapter 6, there is that invitation. The women, her friends, they say, come back, come, let's have a look at you. If this is the young lady going to her wedding, imagine this, she's dressed in her wedding dress, she's ready to meet her prince, her king, her lover, for their marriage, for the consummation, and she's all dressed up, she's made beautiful, and she's ready. And just as the bridesmaids would want to say, let's just take a few more pictures with you, let's just see you again, wow. But they're saying, come, let's have a look. And now, at the end of chapter 6, here is the beloved, the husband, the groom, and he is saying, yeah, look at her, gaze at her, observe the ritual wedding dance here, and see her beauty. And that's what we're meant to capture in chapter 7, as he says, I want you, this is his wedding speech, I want you to look at her and to see her beauty, the curves of her thighs, the beauty of her body, described in different ways, like lilies, like a cup filled with wine, her head richly crowned. Your head crowns you like Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel, this high mountain in Israel, and just as that mountain stands out and adorns the country, so her head, her beauty adorns her, and she stands out from the crowds. Beautiful, verse 6, how beautiful you are, and how pleasant my love, with such delights. And then she responds. Here is the dance of the two camps. Here is her dance in response, her poetry, her song. Verse 10, I am my love's, and his desire is for me. And then she says, let's go to the field. Verse 11, let's spend the night. Let's consummate this relationship. And what I want you to pick up here is that change has happened, that something has changed. Now, as we've mentioned a few times, Song of Songs is, some people focus purely on this as a lesson for physical marriage, physical relationships. I think that it has a lot to say as we apply it through Christ and through the gospel to life today. Yes, there is practical wisdom about marriage and relationships. Let's not lose that. If you are getting married, if you are considering marriage, or if you are married and you are thinking, how can we really keep going and being faithful and enjoying our relationship, whether your relationship is healthy and you just want to renew it and encourage it, or whether you are going through dry and difficult times, if you want to know to live well for Christ in your marriage, if you want to know how to have a good and healthy and happy marriage, then yes, you need to come to God's word for it. And so it is important to say this. Get married. Something changes. That's why sexual intimacy is reserved for marriage, because there is a time. Do not awaken love before its right time. That's why we wait. That's why it matters. As a change comes. There are other things that will change. Your family identity, your priorities change. You aren't the family's responsibility anymore. The brothers have to let go in a way. If you are the bride, you have a husband who speaks for you, who adores you, who treasures you, who loves you, who protects you and provides for you. And husbands, you have a wife, and that's what you should be doing. That means that if there's any dispute, any challenge, you take her side. If you've been mummy's boy, as we've learnt about it, and your mum adores you and you adore your mum, and there's tensions at different times, and mum and daughter-in-law have different views about things, make sure you know whose corner you're in, who you're batting for. Make sure that everyone around knows this is your wife. Not as a chattel, not as a piece of property, but that delight of that relationship that you and her know where your first priorities after Christ, after God, your first love is. It does mean that friendships change. I've seen there's been a bit of discussion about this in recent times about whether or not you can have platonic friendships with others outside of your marriage. And the answer is, of course, there's platonic friendships. And we need to talk about brother and sister and brother and sister relationships in the church. That's crucial. But do be aware that the relationships do change. That in fact, when I am married, I become one flesh with my wife and she with me, so that friendships are between us and us. To say something changes. The brothers have to recognize the change. The friends are recognizing a change. Our lives will have to recognize the change as well, that this is now where his priority is. The reason that we say this has changed is because we're applying it through Christ, and we're recognizing that if we belong to Christ, that is where our first loyalty is. And so our relationships to others change because our relationship to Jesus has changed, has become the most important, the central, the priority, the foundational relationship. There's an exclusivity there as well. Talk about that individually, but we also come back to that relationship of the church as the bride and Christ as the bridegroom. So I want us really at the end of Song of Songs to capture this. Something has changed. That there is a difference. The difference is Jesus. We look at ourselves as God's people together, the church, a corporate body. When we look at ourselves as individuals, we are new creations. We learn to see us as Christ sees us. Changed, renewed, cleansed, forgiven. To see the beauty, the glory that we have as the church. To see that once again we are the image bearers of God. Not because of anything good or lovely or righteous or worthy in ourselves, but because he makes us clean, because he makes us beautiful, and he declares it so. Changed, we are justified, we are made right with God. Here is this beautiful, wonderful new relationship. So he declares us lovely and beautiful. I can't help but go back to that wonderful story that Martin Luther told. I think it may even date older than that, maybe back to people like Augustine, about the prince and the pauper. The love story of a prince who meets a lady, and she is a beggar. She's prostituted herself. She's living in rags. She's in great debt. She is in an absolute mess. And here is this prince, and he is wealthy and powerful. The debts are astronomical, but his riches are abundant. Well, he loves her. His heart is captured by her, and her heart is his. So he chooses to love her, chooses to marry her, and to welcome him into his house, into his family, into his kingdom, to become his princess, to become his queen, princess bride, if you like. And the point is this, as Luther explained it: on the day that she marries him, all of her debt and all of her filthy rags and all of her shame that she's had until now become his. He shares it. He takes it on himself. But all of his riches, all of his wealth become hers. So that the debt is cancelled, but not just cancelled so that she's got a second time, but now she owns, she's united in with him. They are one. And so all of his wealth, all of his riches, all of his glory, all of his fame, her debt, her pain and her shame are wiped away, and she enters into the glory, the wealth, the riches, the delight that is his. That is what Christ has done for you and me. That's why everything changes. That we are united with him. It's called faith union. And he on the cross took my sin on himself. So that I am now clothed in his righteousness. I am his, and he is mine. We are in the safest place possible. We are in the best place. And because we are changed, we have this new identity. So he continues to work in our lives so that we are being changed from glory to glory, that we are being renewed, that we are being sanctified. Here is the motivation for perseverance in the Christian faith, in holiness, that we have this new status as the bride of Christ together, and therefore we want to live lives that are worthy of that status, worthy of that identity, fitting with what God declares of us. You and I have been changed. And so people should be able to see that reality lived out. I'd like to take a moment now just to thank Jesus for changing you. Again, your love of him because of his lavish love, mercy, compassion, and grace to you. Why not take a moment to think about those gaps, those areas where there isn't yet evidence of that change? Ask him to keep working in your life so that you might be fully changed, so that you might be sanctified. Looking forward to that day, purifying ourselves, looking forward to that day when we will see him as he is, and we will be like him because we will see him face to face.